everyone, it's Storm, and if you haven't looked at my community tab, on the 16th of May, I posted a poll asking Wizard 101 players which version of Firecat Alley they preferred, story-wise anyways. And as of the time of recording, I have 71% for the old story and 29% for the new story. And I might have forgotten that there are now some players out there that have never and will never experience the old story of not just Firecat Alley, but Wizard City in general. Because for those that don't know, Wizard City got a massive update. I don't know how long ago it's been, but it was a while ago. And part of that update, not only was it like a graphical update, but they also changed a lot of the stories that took place in the world. The purpose of the world as a whole has not changed. It still sets up Malistaire as the villain, it still covers Sylvia's death, it still takes you to all of the places that you would have gone to in the old version of the world, but the stories of the streets have changed. And now there are people out there that will have never even played through the old versions of the streets. So today I would like to very briefly just cover the old stories and then the new stories of Wizard City. So starting with Unicorn Way. The old Unicorn Way actually focused a lot more on the fairies and Lady Oriole. Not so much on the undead, they were more for side missions, but the gist of it was Malistaire raised the dead, and then there's this dude called Rattlebones that was trapping fairies in these bone cages and corrupting them, and so you had to help out Lady Oriole in, freeing her fairies. In the new version, it does actually incorporate the undead a little bit more, which is kind of nice, but they took out the fairy element almost entirely. Where it was once the primary focus, it is now just sort of a set dressing. For the most part, the story of Unicorn Way itself hasn't really changed. You still ultimately fight Rattlebones at the end, and then the street has been saved, and, good job. You are now the hero of Unicorn Way. Still ends the same, but the roles of the fairies and the undead have been flipped. Triton Avenue. The old version of Triton Avenue was Susie Griffinbane lost her brother. He was kidnapped, and she wants to know where he is and save him. She enlists the help of Duncan Grimwater, and Duncan performed a ritual to find out where Arthur was. Turns out the Harvest Lord kidnapped him, and so then the wizard goes and, fights the Harvest Lord, and then after that it was simply trying to restore power to the Storm Nexus. Whether or not the street was going to explode, I don't remember that, but Arthur didn't actually do much in the old story. He was more of the damsel in distress figure. The minute you rescued him, you didn't really see him again. He didn't appear at Susie's side afterwards. He was just there. Now, in the new version of Triton Avenue, the siblings have basically swapped roles. Arthur is now looking for Susie, who has been kidnapped by the Harvest Lord, although we don't know that yet. Arthur enlists the help of Duncan, or more like Duncan kind of inserts himself into the situation, and he performs his weird finding person ritual, and lo and behold, Susie's with the Harvest Lord. So then the wizard goes and frees her from the Harvest Lord, and Susie says, "Hey, thank you for freeing me, but the Harvest Lord rigged the street to explode, so we have to fix the nexus, the electricity rod, essentially." And so you fix the massive electricity rod, and the street has been saved, and that's the end of the street. Now, I'm actually going to do Cyclops Lane next. The old story of Cyclops Lane was General Achilles had a promise with, Merle Ambrose to keep the street safe and orderly and, basically be the police for that little area. However, General Achilles has kind of gone back on his promise, and now the Cyclops and Warhorns and Trolls are running amok, and no one really knows why. And to further tack on to the insanity of it all, General Achilles has taken 3 students hostage. And there's this really annoying kid called Nolan Nolan's a massive prick. He's that one kid in the group project that does absolutely no work and likes to boss everyone around, and then at the end of it, he's just like, yeah, we all did it together, and I was really important. It's like, bro, he didn't do anything. That's basically his entire role in the street. Before and after, actually, his role really hasn't changed much. Anyways, so at the end of the street, it is revealed that Achilles was honor bound to Malastare to cause havoc for him. Take the students hostage and start wrecking the place. Very simple. And so then when the wizard defeats Achilles in combat, Achilles is then honor bound to the wizard to stop his chaos and release the students, which he does. The students didn't play a massive role in the street. They were just always kind of there in the background, like, oh yeah, and you have to save some students. Anyways, the new Cyclops Lane has changed a little bit, but I don't know how to feel about the changes. It does involve the students a little bit more, instead of them being taken hostage by General Achilles and then you freeing them at the end. You actually free them a little bit towards the middle of the street now, and the street has been taken over by this vampire bunny, and it's so stupid. So basically there's this vampire bunny thing that got cursed or whatever, and it's got this weird hypnosis gaze that charms all unintelligent creatures. So obviously it doesn't affect, you know, wizards and the adults because they actually have a brain. But like, you know, the trolls and the Cyclops, very easy to manipulate apparently. And so this bunny is actually working under Malastare and is forcing the Cyclops and the Warhorns and the trolls to cause chaos. And the students, actually the bunny was, I think, planning to use one of the students as like a host. That, or just in general insert powerful undead spirits into their bodies. But anyways, after you free the students, Nolan doesn't play a massive role in the street beyond that. He has a couple of lines of dialogue, but after that, the street is basically out of his hands. And then the bunny reveal is so... Sure, it is within the same realm of restructuring the story, but they did also rewrite some of it to just make it sound so stupid. At least, you know, that's my opinion. It's just, I liked the earlier version where it was basically Malastare calling in a favor rather than Malastare getting a vampire bunny. And that's it. It was a very weird change. Firecat Alley has seen the most change of the three streets, in my opinion. They basically rewrote the entire story, but the new story is just about as stupid as Cyclops Lane. So the old story was Private Quinn was waiting for some Fire Elf friends to show up, but they never showed up. So then when the wizard arrives, the private asks the wizard to go to Fire Globe Theater to go and check on them for him because he's getting worried. And then the wizard goes and checks on the fire elves and turns out they've all gone mad. So Private Quinn is like, oh no, something terrible must have happened. You don't get it. They don't just do this. I have to bring this up because it is paid off later. Private Quinn mentions a fire elf called Phoebo, who once saved his life. And Phoebo tells the private that they are friends forever and that their arrows connect all of them together, and then that's where the private gets the idea of getting a couple fire elf arrows because maybe through examining the magic of the arrows they can find out what happened to the fire elves. Pretty straightforward. And then you go and enlist the help of Greta Darkkettle because he doesn't have any magic expertise. He's a guard, and the wizard is still technically a new student to not only Ravenwood but the Spiral at large. So it's not like they know any special magic rituals themselves. Eventually it is revealed that they were cursed by a banshee's wail, and this banshee was actually working for Malastare and was asked to curse the fire elves so they would cause chaos on the street. So you go and you fight the Banshee, you get a lock of her hair. Greta combines it with a candle to make magic candle wax. Then the private mixes the special candle wax with a potion and gives it to the wizard and tells the wizard to go to Fire Globe and fight the prince and then give him the potion. They do that and they give the prince the potion and he's cured. And then when you return to the private to report your success, Phoebo appears and says thank you as well. And it's really cute. The new version of Firecat Alley is about Lizzo trying to teach the fire elves how to sing, but then there's this banshee that really wants to sing with them but was told no, so then she appears and curses them all out of spite because she doesn't like them anymore. And that's basically the entire premise of the new story. What happened? Was Private Quinn just too much to handle? They removed Phoebo! Phoebo isn't there anymore! Frankly, I think they changed Firecat Alley just to insert Lizzo for whatever reason. I don't know where they got the idea to insert Lizzo in the first place and why they thought it was a good idea. Private Quinn had a very logical, heartfelt thing going on with his fire elf friends. They didn't need to take it away from the man, and now he's just relegated to, oh hey, you're here to help? Well, go talk to Lizzo. I can't do a whole lot. Can you tell I am greatly annoyed by this development? I just want Phoebo back. Now, the changes don't actually stop there with the 3 streets. The rest of what has changed is a light restructuring, sort of. Falgaze is still there, and Lord Nightshade is still there. Though with Nightshade in particular, the old quest for him was you fought Falgaze, and then Merle Ambrose just sends the wizard straight to Nightshade. So you skipped basically all of the mobs in the haunted cave and went right to Nightshade. Fought him. Then it's discovered that the key that Falgaze dropped leads to Night's Side, which is where the death school is. And then, you know, things kind of go from there. Now, like, you still do Falgaze, but I don't think he drops the key anymore. And then you go to the haunted cave to reach Nightshade. But there's an extra NPC there that is literally only there to give you defeat X mob quests, basically forcing you to fight the mobs in the haunted cave. Bruh, I just want to go fight Nightshade and be done with it because that's the only reason why I'm there. I don't want to fight all of these random mobs. Honestly, I think at this rate the haunted cave should just have been a sigil that just led you to Nightshade. That's all you really needed for that area, was just turn it into its own instance. It doesn't need to be a proper area. Now I know, granted, there is the gate in the back that they open up for the Halloween stuff. However, you could just move that gate somewhere else. You don't need a full-on area just to put one seasonal sigil in. Sure, you'd have to restructure a couple other quests because you do go back into the haunted cave for a couple of death-specific quests if you are a necromancer. However, there is no point to have this one character be here in the haunted cave, but she's there now, and now you have to do some annoying mob fights. But after that, everything is more or less straightforward. Actually, one other thing that KingsIsle did was they put in a lot more references to the Krokonomicon and Krokotopia, and I don't really know how to feel about that either, because on one hand, sure, at least the Krokonomicon is present in Wizard City, and it's being set up, kind of. But on the other hand, I feel like it's way too on the nose now. I wouldn't necessarily say that beforehand it was any better. No, beforehand it wasn't brought up enough, but now it's brought up a little bit too much. Back in the day, when I was a kid, you had to get to the end of the world in order to really find out about the Krokonomicon. Now, in the current version of Wizard City, you can't take 2 steps without hearing something about the Krokonomicon Krokonomicon or the Order of the Fang or Krokotopia. It's not terribly explicit. Like, I think a lot of the books are actually to do with the Order of the Fang rather than the Krokonomicon and Krokotopia in general, which, mind you, is a secret organization. So, it is impressive how many books there are of people trying to find the Order of the Fang, and no one has found the Order of the Fang up until the wizard comes along. It blows my mind. So I don't really know if nowadays it's a little bit too much on the nose rather than not enough on the nose, though I do know that back in the day it was not highlighted quite as much. Well, that's it for me. I don't know if you could tell, but this video was very off the cuff. I was just looking through some of the retired quests for Wizard City, and I was almost amazed with how much they actually did change about the place, especially the 3 streets. If you would like to chat with me and other members from my new community now, I have a Discord server. There's a link to that in the description. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful time zone.